In our last video, we saw how we could insert a pivot table into our Excel document and how we could then build it out using the Pivot Tables field pane. In our last video, we focused on one piece of information we wanted, the total insured value separated by region and business type. However, there's other relevant information you may need to capture. For example, let's say after presenting the data from our pivot table, we were asked to find the number of insured businesses and the average amount insured for each region and business type. Rather than building new pivot tables, we can add that information to our current pivot table. Let's return to our pivot table from the last lesson. Our framework to separate our data by region and business type is already part of the pivot table. So all we have to do is find how to add the information of the number of loans and the average loan amount. Let's start with the number of loans. Our original table doesn't have a corresponding field to the number of loans, but there is one entry in the table per loan. That means we can use the insured value header to display the information we want. Let's see how. Click and drag insured value into the Values section of the Pivot Tables field pane. Even though we already have that information in the table, a copy of the data is added to the pivot table. However, we don't need the sum of the value, we need a count of the number of times a value was in the original table. To get the count, right-click the second sum of insured value column and select Value Field Settings. You'll see an option to summarize value field by with a list of options. Select Count. Let's also rename this field so the information is clearer. Type number of buildings insured in the custom name field. Then select OK. In our new column, we can now easily see how many buildings are insured by region and business type. Let's also find our average insured amount using the same process. Click and drag insured value into the Values section of the Pivot Tables field pane. Right-click the second sum of insured value column and select Value Field Settings. This time we'll select Average in the Summarize Value field by field. Name the field Average Insured Value. Since this is a dollar amount, we should also change the numbers to the accounting number format. Click Number Format and select Accounting. Select OK and OK again. We now have a pivot table that displays the total value of our insurance amounts, the number of buildings insured, and average insurance amounts separated by region and business type. Our first two videos have helped show some of the basics of using pivot tables. Pivot tables make it easy to summarize complex information. Next, we'll see how to filter our pivot tables to focus on specific information.